Diddy's trial is back from the long break, and his former assistant Capricorn Clark took the stand. Right now they're on a break, but she just finished with the prosecutor. She talked about the alleged kidnapping, a lie detector test that lasted 5 days, the fact that Diddy threatened her, Cassie, and Kid Cudi, that he would unalive all of them, and so much more. On the stand, it was said that she was shaky, she was nervous, and that she cried multiple times, but let's get into her testimony. Before working for Diddy, she said she worked for Def Jam, and then she worked for Death Row Records, which was run by Suge Knight, who had issues with Diddy. When she worked for him, she was his personal assistant and global brand director, and worked for him from 2004 to 2012. And then in 2016, she came back as Cassie's creative director. Her very first day working for Diddy, she said he took her to Central Park after dark, and he said to her, "You used to work for Suge Knight. If anything happens, I might have to unalive you." He said his security, Uncle Paulie, stood by, and she took that very seriously. Then said she told Diddy, "I didn't have anything to do with that stuff, but they objected, so we have no idea what she was going to say." She was asked if she had ever seen Diddy with a weapon, and she said yes, and it was a time where Diddy had issues with 50 Cent. She said there was an elevator ride in the early 2000s after an MTV event. Diddy had just appeared alongside 50 Cent, and things had gotten awkward, and he turned to his manager in the elevator and he said, "I don't like all the back and forth. I like pew-pews." She said she took that as a real threat. Then goes on to talk about a lie detector test that lasted 5 days after Diddy found out his jewelry was missing. She said she was asked to transport high-end diamond jewelry that was on loan from Jacob the jeweler, and when she got to the airport, the bag of jewelry was missing. He went off to Miami and left her behind with his security, Uncle Paulie. He said Uncle Paulie questioned her for 3 hours, and then he drove her to a rundown building where he left her there to take a lie detector test. The place was still under construction, but he took her up to the 6th floor and locked the door behind them. He described a man who was sitting at a folding table being 5 times the size of her, sitting there chain smoking. The man allegedly told her, "You're here to take a lie detector test, and if you fail, they're going to throw you in the East River." Said she had wires strapped to her. She was terrified and nervous, and the man said, "I can't get a good reading. You need to calm down or you're going in the river." She was taken home later that day, but for 5 days straight, it would continue. Uncle Paulie would pick her up, take her to that building, she would get strapped and have to take the lie detector test. When she returned to work, Diddy never asked her where she had been, and she doesn't know if the jewelry was ever found. Asked why she didn't go to the police, she said she was under an NDA, and Diddy's attorney objected and they had to move on. In terms of working conditions, she said she had to work from 9 a.m. to 4 a.m. On a good day, she'd get 4 hours of sleep, and on a bad day, she'd get 2. She made $55,000 a year and said she developed a stress-induced alopecia, and she had worked so much overtime that when she went to HR, they said she was owed $80,000. And that $80,000 was just for a 3-month period. That HR brought the paper to Diddy to show him what he owed her, and he ripped it up, never giving her a dime of it. She talks about a time in 2006 when she was at Diddy's Star Island mansion. He allegedly told her, "I don't care what goes on this weekend, you are not to leave this house." That weekend, Pharrell Williams was brought in by boat as a guest to Diddy's house, and she was asked to escort Mr. Walker back to Palm Island and return. Apparently, she had stayed too long, and Diddy called her saying, "Where the F are you?" He details how one time she asked the chef if there was any turkey bacon, and the chef responded, "No effing turkey bacon," and she tells the chef, "I hate it here." Well, that chef immediately went to tell Diddy, and Diddy came charging at her in his robe. He said he shoved her again and again with his hands on her shoulder, pushing her 25 to 30 yards across his house. He screamed at her saying, "You hate it here? Then get the F out my house." Security stepped in telling her to pack her bags, and she said she left because that was crossing her boundary. She did come back to work for Diddy as his global brand ambassador. And in the next part, I will talk about everything she said about Cassie and Kid Cudi.